Youka might be one of the most morally ambiguous characters in Kingdom. He once stood as the primary pillar of QIN'S information network, or in other words, its ultimate spy master, and has since supposedly left said state to join the other information juggernaut in China, Raboku. And yet, at the same time, some readers believe that he is actually not an evil character, which makes his choices and his path all the more confusing. While Youka has made some mistakes in the past, mistakes that he has obviously pondered and learned from, how do we go on to reconcile that with his contradictory actions today? After fighting without praise for so long, all for the sake of QIN'S war for unification, he decided to pull one over on us and started helping the worst general in the world. As Rishi asks, what is he really aiming for? What is this man's true goal? What are we supposed to think of him? Well, the full puzzle that is Youka can be pieced together by breaking down the details of his dialogue throughout the story, and it all together makes for perhaps one of the most nuanced characters in this series. He is flawed, maybe even repentant. Nonetheless, he is but a man that is walking a dark path, the darkest, to be able to bring the greater good into China, sacrificing his honor and reputation to do so. But before we continue, make sure to subscribe for new Kingdom videos every week. To begin with, what's most interesting about Youka is that he is the first and so far only spy in the story that we follow who actively shifts from fully serving QIN and its best interests without question to breaking free from the QIN King's dream. Think about it. The other spy, Kanpishi, was established to be someone that serves his king well, as his extensive information network is a testament to this. In regard to Han spies, Youka likened their espionage to the most vicious of poisons. This elite work and reputation as the most troublesome spies to China's other states clearly means that Kanpishi and his team, unlike Youka, has always had Han's best interests at heart. Although Youka might be crucial to Kingdom's narrative, as he is the only spy that we are introduced to who begins his character arc with complete loyalty to QIN and then goes against his own beliefs later on. Initially, when we meet him, we see that Youka was actually the one that caused Raboku to be banished from his prime minister position following the coalition's defeat. Since Youka saw this act as for the greater good of China, he more than happily pushed for it. However, Youka must also understand at his core that there is no such thing as an act that is unquestionably for the greater good. What is correct and incorrect is something that can easily change based on perspective. He may have subconsciously realized that the greater good is a vague concept and that it is more important for individuals to determine themselves what is right or wrong. And so, Youka at the point in time of the Raboku incident probably believes this type of thinking should ultimately come second to what he is told by QIN is for the greater good. That's part of what makes Youka such an interesting character. He recognizes why free thought is important, but initially placed it second to following his duty. Most other characters are clear in this single line of thinking, either thinking freely without careful rules like Jukio, or are obedient soldiers that maintain the kingdom's direction like To. Youka starts off with both sides making up his mentality, and even respects Rishi for living by his preference, for unquestionably serving the QIN king. Youka personally places his own freedom of thought above QIN authority. This is why this moment is so important. The moment right before Youka leaves for Shao once again. This is the moment that we see Youka's malleable beliefs in real time, reinforcing his true goal as being the unification of China, trying to present himself as noble to Rishi by saying that his work will never be appreciated, and highlighting that Rishi's skepticism makes him worthy of being Prime Minister of QIN in the future. All these things are enough to allude to perhaps him trying to sow seeds of discord within QIN internally, presenting himself in a tragic hero light, filling Rishi with thoughts of power, pretty much saying he supports him over the likes of Shobunkun, which in turn shifts attention away from Youka's questionable actions that he implied was for the greater good. If what he is doing is truly for the greater good, then maybe he shouldn't place QIN's orders above his own decisions. But the brilliance of this scene and the context it provides for the rest of the Kingdom story is that it is not as though Youka simply becomes a changed man right away. He probably will not suddenly decide to start following QIN's direct orders again, and instead he will most likely continue making his own decisions on right and wrong. Youka might be finding himself at a crossroads of sorts right now. He has a question that must be answered. Is it correct to follow the QIN King's method with absolute obedience? And so he decides to give himself almost somewhat of an experiment. He will go back to what Rishi wanted initially, and serve under Kakukai's faction again, someone that is evil and must be rid of, but he himself might not think is the one that needs to be dealt with. Youka wants to closely observe Roboku, but if Kakukai continues to hold the most power second to the king, then that would mean Chin was right, and Youka should have just obediently followed orders and went on to keep feeding them any and all information, like before Kunki went north. It would essentially prove that his decision to let Kunki die to reduce the chance of being found out by Roboku was ultimately incorrect. On the other hand, if Kakukai turns out to be third to Roboku's second, one who holds the greater influence in Xiao, then that would mean Youka following his heart was correct. The story of Xiao is so important to the story of Youka, because Xiao's path helps determine Youka's path. The type of outcome is crucial to shifting Youka's point of view, though we are yet to see this until Xiao's final days. So where we leave her with Youka at the end of the Nature of Humanity storyline is a man that is still at a crossroads with himself, that he might not even know. How can someone betray their kingdom and all of a sudden be immediately loyal once again? But this little Xiao experiment could be the key to nudging him in one direction a little more. Youka will have to wait to see if he made the right choice by betraying Chin a couple years ago before the Battle of Jian. From here, there are no more hints as to what Youka's latest and true beliefs may be, but there is a strong indicator when we find out a year later that Youka didn't simply let Kunki die. He made a judgment call to not dig too deep for Roboku's strategies against Kunki for the sake of China's future. Not only did Youka do this, Youka chose to follow Roboku as his leader. So all of this paints Youka to be far from an admirable character so far. He started off as a loyal servant of Chin who understood that individual perspective has value, but at the end of the day, prioritized following orders. Though maybe after seeing the flaws of Chin's methods and the opportunity before him, he gave himself the chance to test what is correct and thought to see what would happen if he made his own decisions rather than follow Chin. At the conclusion of this whole Xiao experiment, Youka might change in some way. Opening up his way of thinking, he might become more aware of the dangers of abandoning the first kingdom that backed him and his career in the first place, as Youka forgot himself and ignored Chin. All in all, Youka is back and forth constantly on himself. At some point, he must have agreed with what Roboku was saying, and maybe still does, that war is inevitable and that peace is fleeting, and this endless cycle is what makes the world the way it is. But again, this is mostly speculation. Let's say he secretly still is. Why is he now with Roboku? Why is he genuinely siding with the worst general in the world? Looking back at one of the most important pages in all of Kingdom, in my opinion, where Roboku and Sei juxtapose with each other. One representing the evil and flawed philosophy of maintaining the status quo, crying about Sei being unfair and not trying to create a multi-state alliance, and the other showing the hopeful but unrealistic mentality as he rants about taking down China's other states through military might for the sake of a new world. The idea is that here, both Roboku and Sei represent the extremes of both sides, which is why it is so interesting that Youka, in breaking free of Sei's side, just switches over to Roboku's. He went to the dark side. It doesn't make sense, right? But really it does if you look closely at what might be implied that Youka is actually doing. Well, first of all, it's made explicitly clear that Youka didn't join Roboku because he agrees with his morals or goals. He only joins because he must have seen the value in gaining deep trust in someone who might very well hold more influence than the Xiao King. It isn't about helping Roboku do what he wants. It is very clearly Youka using this as an avenue to getting what he wants, even if we don't know what that is yet. Though, if we are to believe him, is working towards the unification of China. To think that Youka, a spy, suddenly is a bad person because of this service under Roboku is contradictory to everything else we are being told, as Youka outright tells Rishi that he is still serving for China's unification all the same. This is still the same Youka we were introduced to, the same man that has consistently risked his life in the Xiao inner courts, because this is a man determined to do something, to change something. Something that perhaps none of us right now can truly understand. Youka might just have his own agenda, something easier to accomplish by using Roboku no matter the cost. So what is Youka's true goal? What goal would make him make a deal with the devil? This may go without saying, but we have long left the lands of analysis and are wandering into the desert of speculation. But Youka's goal most likely is still moral. The key thing to remember is that he has had an incredible eye for detail from the start. His character arc could be learning to follow that eye for detail to see the best course of action action on the front lines, instead of blindly following orders. As such, it's probably on purpose that now we get to see a fully unshackled Youka. He is finally able to follow his own methods and pursue what he believes is right, even if others might question this. It is meant to look questionable from the outside. This is actually a common trend in Kingdom. Going against the grain, following your own beliefs to a fault, will often make you look really bad without full context. Think about the initial reputation Oki built up as a villainous and unapologetic individual. So even if we, the reader, can't yet understand a clear and surefire reason why Youka would be working with Roboku, we need to remember two things. That Youka has been deathly loyal from the start, and that his character arc up till now has been learning to listen to himself as someone who knows the inside, instead of blindly following Qin authority. The fact that he's doing something that seems wrong to us right now, coupled with the fact that he is a spy, and that he is apparently serving as a spy master in every single state in China, does all suggest that there's likely much more to Youka right now than meets the eye. Things are not as straightforward as they seem at first glance. So why then is Youka siding with Roboku? What can possibly justify him helping the worst general in the world? What is the true goal for the greater good that Youka is supposedly pursuing that needs to be hidden from the reader? Who knows? But it's likely we won't fully understand Youka for a while yet, because remember, his role as an insider, as a spy, means he is spearheading the war that isn't on the outside, the internal war, but just as important when it comes to unifying China. So we might not find out much until the end of Kingdom's story, or at least Xiao's story. So for a while at least, his nuanced motivations will not be revealed to us. But let me know what you think of Youka in the comments section below. Did you enjoy this video? Check out my other videos. Be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to stay updated on my latest videos. I appreciate you guys.